lot of questions that I have been getting, and we can start answering them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm Lekna and this is Raj.
Hi everyone.
So if no one shows up, I will start answering all your questions that I've been receiving on my DMs. So we will start there.
Alright, if you have questions, you can please put it on the chat. We'll start answering your questions.
Yes. We're just waiting for people to join in, and we will start once we start getting questions. Yes, go ahead, Sampath. You can drop your question, Sampath, if you can hear us fine.
Okay, we see your question, Sampath. You're asking, can you please tell me the scope for machine learning? Where do we start? There's a lot of machine learning that's currently in the world. It's not a new topic. It has been here for decades now, and it's gotten really popular, I would say, in the last 8 to 10 years because of the advancements that happen in the field of AI. So machine learning, that's the future. We'll see machine learning a lot applied for everything. So if you're asked, I don't if you have more specific question, please put it in. But if you're generally asking the scope for machine learning, yes, there are a lot of jobs. There'll be a lot of almost everyone wants to use machine learning to optimize something and automate.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Yeah, it's coming from director of data science. So so ask all your questions. Raj is has a great experience in the world of machine learning and AI and stuff. So all your AI machine learning questions, he is a great resource. So whoever is watching this, you guys are lucky today. Okay, before we get that, a question from Sampath. So there have been a couple of questions around deep learning and machine learning. A couple of them reached out and they were asking me on, the next, after once you learn data science, the next step is like getting into more focused areas of like deep learning, machine learning, and things like that, right? So what do you think are like, how do you narrow your focus? Like, for example, if someone just started with data science and they're just figuring out NLP and learning a little bit more on deep learning, how can someone identify what they're good at and how can they focus, or is it even like needed, like do you need to focus on one particular area?
Yes, I think there's always scope for both generalists and specialists. Generalist is a word that you'd use for someone who likes to learn different things. They're very much interested in integration kind of work. AI is one of the good application or fields for generalists. I'm a generalist. I like to learn different things and I explore horizontally. At the same time, I also have some verticals and specialization being in AI, machine learning, computer vision, natural language processing. That's kind of my focus and specialization at this point of time. Uh, so it is important for you to go deep, but there's also scope for someone who wants to go wide. The best combination is go super wide. You know basically a little bit of everything, and then go deep in at least one of them. That is what I would recommend.
And so like if someone's like you're saying like go deep in at least one of that, right? So what would you suggest, like how do you, like if you are like multi-passionate and you want to do different problems, like how would you recommend for someone who wants to go deep in say for example deep learning? Do you have any good resources, and like where can they start?
Sure, I think if you're picking up deep learning, it is not easy topic. It's an advanced topic, so you should have cleared all the basic machine learning, statistics, visualization, all that stuff, and then you move on to something advanced like deep learning. And deep learning, you have primarily two things where the deep learning is applied to popularly: computer vision and NLP. Uh, NLP stands for natural language processing. Computer vision is to do anything with pictures, videos. So those are the major two applications of deep learning. You pick one, move on in that. And if you want to be a researcher, then you get further deep. Otherwise, you kind of generalize at that level. And then whatever company you're working for and whatever problems they have, you kind of tend to solve those problems with those tools.
Yeah. Yeah, because like many of the like our like followers and people who reach out, they have been like, I think one of the most common things that you guys have asked me was like, how do you get to know you're good at something, right? Like how do you know if you are good at probably NLP? How do you know if you're good at deep learning? How do you know? So I think that comes with a lot of like
Projects. Experimentation projects. Yeah, deep learning is definitely complicated, but again, you don't have to learn every single thing unless you want to be a researcher. You can be an engineer. You could hack around, look at code online, but you need to understand to take it to the next level. That's where data scientists come into picture. But if you want to implement a deep learning solution, having basic understanding and ability to hack around and copy code from GitHub, copy code from Medium or other locations like Stack Overflow and build your code, that still works. But to optimize it, to find the optimal solution or taking care of it in the right way, you need to think through it. You need to have advanced courses that you've done in it, or masters and PhDs to really solve big problems. But a lot of companies have come up with these SaaS models for machine learning, deep learning. You could go to Microsoft, Amazon, AWS. They have something from each to train a model and deploy. So there are definitely tools that is making it easy for anyone to use the deep learning. A few years ago, there were no such tools, and you had to build everything from scratch. Or borrow code and do transfer learning. So it was complicated. Before now, it's getting easier and easier.
Okay.
Right. I think we have some questions.
Yeah, switching gears to questions from our audience here. So Sampath is asking that he's worked for 4 years in industrial area with mechanical engineering background. I want to switch to a data scientist career now. Will they consider me in the interview?
I've seen hundreds of resumes. I've hired data scientists. Um, yeah, if you're coming from mechanical engineering or anything, at this point of time, there are very few masters in data science courses, or universities are teaching very few of them. So you need to have courses and projects to show you know machine learning. By just mechanical engineering, I wouldn't hire you as data scientist, or anyone would even call you for an interview unless you show enough projects or courses. So courses will give you credibility that you've learned the concepts. Projects will say you're able to implement and understand the projects. So you've got to do both. Once you have a couple of projects and courses under your belt, uh, and in your resume, so you should be able to get an interview call when you apply.
So Sampath also says that he is proficient with Python.
Mm-hmm.
Is JavaScript mandatory for data science and machine learning is what he's asked. And he's certified
No.
in Tableau too.
Right.
So should he learn Power BI?
Um, so different companies call different things for data scientists. So it depends on the company. Some companies would get data scientists to build dashboards, but the way I define data scientist is someone who actually goes and solves the problems, and does very complicated analytical problems or analysis to understand the data. So I've never need to use JavaScript. I know a little bit of JavaScript. I never had to use JavaScript in my career in data science. So JavaScript is not mandatory at all. I don't know where that question came from, but all you need to know is Python at this point of time, and more data engineering, SQL. Those are things that could help in processing data deployments, APIs, things
Yeah,
like that.
and I think he's talking about Tableau.
Mhm.
So Sampath, if you're looking at Tableau, if you're already certified in Tableau, then maybe you're confused with data analytics or data science, because data analytics requires you to learn Tableau. So do you want to tell like what a data scientist does? I can tell what a data analyst does.
Sure, yeah. Looks like, I mean, if Sampath already has Tableau, he should. I think you'd easily get interviews for data analysts. Maybe that's a stepping stone for you to become a data
Yeah.
scientist. With data scientists day to day, you need to handle things that are more complex, complex problems, or problems that involve machine learning for sure. Deep learning optional, but machine learning for sure. So you need to have machine learning courses done, so you understand the philosophy of machine learning. You know how to split the data. You don't make rookie mistakes there, and you know which algorithm to use. Also, you can throw like 50 algorithms at a problem and see which one sticks, or 50 different configurations of algorithms, like different parameters and things like that. So you could still do that, but you need to understand the fundamentals of machine learning. So that kind of becomes important. Again, I was telling you about. I think the next question I'm reading is what math skills are required for machine learning, and I see that I can't give you an exact list. It depends, because it's pretty wide. There are a lot of things that you can learn depending on the problem you're trying to solve. But definitely, I would suggest take a course in machine learning. There are a lot of good courses in Udemy, Udacity, Coursera, MIT, Stanford, a lot of online courses, even YouTube. So go ahead, take some of those courses. Preferably, if you're getting into machine learning now, I would suggest taking it from one of these big companies, so you know and understand all the aspects that you need to understand for machine learning. After that, you can just go into YouTube and learn a topic. But in order to get into this field of machine learning, you need at least to take a course to understand and do projects.
Yeah, so again, I think Sampath's follow-up question is that he's enrolled in our data science and machine learning program, and he just got to know about projects and how important it is to get one, in this career. So how to find one or start one on my own?
Right. So there are lots of projects online. If you search There are tons of projects. You can go to Kaggle, you can go to other websites, you can just search for data sets too. But I would suggest first copy someone's projects, implement them, see if you can get the same answers. Kaggle is a great place to start. Then you can look for problems that others want you to solve. Like you can go to forums and ask for problems. You can download data sets. You can go to data.gov or other websites where you can find data and formulate your own problem statement and solve it. You can collect your own data too. Depends on what you're interested in, what areas, what fields, what industries interest you. Pick one of them and go, because you're in mechanical and if you want to leverage both mechanical skills and data science, pick something that's related to maybe hardware, robotics, hardware. That way you focus on some kind of machine learning for mechanical. It could be maintenance of machines, identifying certain things, or something with robotics or racing, something like that, something that overlaps.
Yeah. So do you want to like talk about why that's important before like many of them, right? Like they don't understand why you should pick something that's related to your career, because a lot of them like just say that they've done like 2 Kaggle projects, and I'm like, why am I not getting a job? That's what they say. So do you want to talk about why it's important for you to pick projects in like mechanical, like what you were saying?
Right. So a lot of them, if you just have college education and you have no real world experience, it becomes hard to relate and solve a real world problem when you come into the industry. So if you already are in an industry, that's a great thing. You should leverage that. You've probably done your engineering and mechanical engineering, so you know all the mechanical concepts, and then you work in an industry which is just mechanical. I don't know what exactly you are doing, but there's a lot of things that you can do with mechanical. So if you use your industrial experience, and data science is just a set of tools that you can use to solve the problem. The same problem could be done in probably 10 different ways, but you're here employing machine learning to solve your problem. Now, problem solving is a skill that is important for data scientists. Now, if you already know mechanical, then you would shine better. You stand out in the crowd compared to others. A lot of times what happens is, if you start seeing the same projects, we start to ignore those projects as projects because they could be just coursework. A lot of common projects, especially like the Titanic survival data set, I see that in a lot of resumes, and I don't even consider that to be a project that I should pay attention to, because it's a part of course. What did you learn? Even if you didn't learn anything, you could still do that project. It doesn't say anything, but if you can pick a project that I've never seen before, and you can talk in depth, and you can, if there's no clearly documented process for solving that problem, or if there's no readily available code, then I would pay more attention, or any company would pay more attention and get deep into that. And you can answer questions, and you're already showing the employer before you join, before they hire you, that you can solve problems in their domain and without much external help, or without having other code that you can just borrow from internet.
Yeah. For those of you who are joining in now, put in your questions. This is a free mentorship session, so put in all your questions. We are out here for answering them. All right. So that's so true when it comes to understanding the industry. Next question is by Garima. She's asking, what type of project would you recommend for data analyst? I think projects, it's pretty much the same. Like Raj was saying, you need to understand what industry type you want to work at. Like if you want to like work in marketing or mechanical or anything like that. So I got distracted. So if you want to work in identifying that, I feel like being in this data space for over 5 years now, I think one of the best things that you could do for yourself is to identify that industry that you want to get into, and maybe working on projects towards those industries. Like, what's your take on that? Do you
Absolutely, yeah. So again, you probably are not inclined for everything, right? So
right?
for data analyst, very important to have business knowledge or the industry knowledge. So let's say you've done your MBA and you have a degree in finance, you should try and focus in financial industry and become something of an analyst in that industry, so you understand what's going on and provide insights, dashboards, reports that you can generate for that industry. If the industry is brand new, you be ready to learn thoroughly about the industry and spend a lot of time learning the business. And I see a lot of them missing that key thing, and that's the most important thing. Uh, there are tools becoming easier and easier day by day, so people who understand business can easily learn something like Power BI to quickly build dashboards and reports. So there's nothing special that a data analyst would bring to the table if they don't understand the business. So understanding business is very, very important. So understand business, understand the KPIs, understand different business terms, uh, visualizations, how to read, access data, and play around with data, build dashboards, reports, etc. Right. So these become very, very important. And if you don't do that, you're not bringing much value to the employer, and they would not be interested in hiring you. So for all business analysts, data analysts, make sure you understand the business you're getting into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the next question is from Sampath, and he's asking what projects are required to get hired in Microsoft or Google or Amazon.
And so there are different teams in each companies,
Yeah.
which are focusing on variety of things, right? Microsoft, all sorts of things. Google again, they're into all sorts of things. AI for data scientists, machine learning.
I think it
Warehouse
depends
management.
on which team or which kind
Right.
of job are you looking for in that particular company. Like based on the job description, you can identify like what kind of technical skills they're looking for. If they're focused highly on Python, probably having good data science projects related to Python, having more like good projects on good projects. I think probably, I guess his question is like, how do you define those good projects?
Right. So pick anything that's not very common, right? So that would set you
Yeah.
apart.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Pick something that would demonstrate your skills. Like if you know deep learning, have a project that uses deep learning, not just say you've taken this deep learning certification course. That wouldn't just say anything. But if you add a project and showcase that you know how to use deep learning for segmentation or image classification or spam detection and things like that, try to pick a unique project, newer project. That way, people understand that there are not too many readily available codes online, and you should understand it very well. When it comes to these companies, it's important that you are good, because these companies are wide and big. They're not in just one kind of business. They are just looking for top talent. So if you prove yourself that you're really good, crack their interviews, written tests, and then crack their interviews with understanding concepts and things like that, you're good. To get your resume picked, you got to make sure you have good projects. And I think that was your question. So any unique project, any projects that would showcase your skills of the topics that are important would be picked. And someone, if there are two resumes and I see a lot of deep learning projects, that I assume that they already know fundamentals of machine learning. That's why they're doing deep learning projects. So put most advanced projects that you can put, and showcase that.
So, for those of you who's joining here, Raj, he is director of data science. So you guys are really lucky. That's what I was saying, to get him here and answer your questions. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box. And also, when you're talking about projects and stuff, what is one thing that you see? Like you hire data scientists, right?
Right.
So what are some things that you see in a resume, in a data scientist resume, that like you should do, and what versus you should not do?
Right. So if you put a lot of things, I've seen a lot of resumes. I even found a resume, surprisingly. Someone said they worked on TensorFlow in 2012, which definitely, sets off alarms saying, hey, TensorFlow was released probably in 2013 or 14 in beta version, and then later it became mainstream. But if they were not working for Google, I know that they're just lying outright. So don't lie on your resume. It's easy to catch. Let's say you worked on TensorFlow for 3 years and you ask some fundamental questions or deeper questions. It's easy to figure out. So don't create. Yes, you gotta strike a balance. If you don't put enough things, you'll not get called for an interview. If you put too many things, you're creating an image in the interviewer's mind that this person already knows these things, and one or two of them are proven wrong. The interviewer starts to disregard the rest of the things that you have quoted in your resume. So be honest. Don't try to fool them. The interviewer mostly knows the subjects well. That's why he's interviewing you. And have unique projects. No point mentioning something like Titanic survival data set. Almost every data scientist has done that project.
Do you see that often on
yeah.
resumes?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I totally ignore that project. I consider that they have not done any projects if I see that. But if I see anything unique, that piques my interest.
How do you know if it's a unique project? Like
just by watching number of people to do it, right? Like if you go to Kaggle, that's one of the projects that you would see thousands of people have already solved it. And so if you go to Kaggle and pick a project that has already thousands of solutions, then it's a very common project.
Yeah.
Get something new, like if the project was posted newly, the data is brand new, like if the data was collected up to 2022, that's an advantage to you. Now I know, hey, the data is really fresh, there won't be many solutions on the internet, and this might be your work. And then the interviewer gets into the details of the project, and that's when your knowledge is being tested.
So you're saying that as like a data set with like as recent as possible.
Right.
Okay.
Basically, the idea is to convince them that you actually did this project.
Did the project.
And it's not. There's a lot of originality in it, right? And you understand it well. So if you convince them that that's exactly what you'll be doing in the company, they don't want you to just keep copying code from internet and solve only problems that are already solved.
So even if I like take any Kaggle data set that is very like recent that they've put out, and I've worked on it, would that be a good resume? I mean, project on my resume?
Yeah, definitely. And you should be able to explain and understand the concepts well. So that's important. Yeah.
Okay. And like when you're interviewing, like let's finish off this round, then we can take the question. So Surya Prakash, we will come to your question next. So my question was, how would you identify, like, so if they have done that particular project on Kaggle, right? They have done some sort of random forest, some sort of a model. How would you test them on the other things that are so important in data science? That's like data cleaning, exploratory data analysis.
Right.
How would you test them on that?
I would generally ask them to go walk me through how they did this project. I would appreciate if they actually collected real world data, then they know how the data is, how to collect the data, what are the problems they could encounter in the real world data. A lot of times textbook problems are well defined, the data is already clean, you don't have to do much. don't have to do any exploratory data analysis on it to identify
Yeah.
the problems. So working with real world data that has problems has higher weightage here. So I would ask them, what are the problems? And then they would say the problems. Then I'd say, how do you go about fixing those things? And continue step through and figure out, at each stage, what did they do? And then what else could you do for other projects? And then kind of understand what was the thought process there. Why did they choose certain model? Why did they choose certain cleaning methodology instead of another? Like for example, if there are NAs, do you like ignore the row or do you ignore the column itself, or do you put data in there, fill data in it using some kind of averaging or other processes, right? So these are all the questions that kind of go into to know whether the person has actually done the project or did they just copy it, and things like that, and also shows to what level of detail they understand machine learning and data science.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so coming back to questions, we have a question from the audience from Surya Prakash. So he's asking, as a mechanical engineer fresher, when I applied for data analytics role, they prefer more of IT background students. What can be done to get a placement from non-IT background?
Right, so some companies might have filters saying you need to be from IT background. There's not much you can do other than try and network with them, try and meet people, or start your career in a startup where it's easy to talk to someone who's going to be hiring you, do internships, do a lot of projects. Make sure you have a solid resume. So one is getting the resume in. One is for someone to look at the resume. That's the first barrier, right? So if they have IT restrictions, if they have a system in place where you would key in all the information and they have a filter saying if it's non-IT background, then don't even show. In that case, they're not even seeing your resume. There's no point you trying to break the system there. So networking would help. Coming from another experience, for example, they might have a filter saying either you have an IT background or your previous job was data analytics or data analyst position. So that way you could start working for a startup where you would easily get a data analytics role, and then you can apply for your dream company where they might have had these filters. Next, once you get the resume to a person, like a recruiter, they need to take it into the hiring manager. For them to do that, they will also have a checklist. So most of the times managers would get only the filtered list from the recruiters, either from recruiting drives, it's like physical campus recruiting or physical drives, or online. There's only a filtered list that goes into the manager's hand. So looking at keywords in your resume is the next filter. So after the degree, certification, etc. filter, the next one is the skills. So if the skills are cleared, if you have manager would have given the list to the recruiter saying, hey, if you see at least 5 of these 10 skills, then give me the resume. So that's the next level filter. So the recruiters would forward the resume to the hiring manager. The manager looks at the data or the resume and decide whether to call them for an interview or not, or send them like a questionnaire to solve or something like that, right? So for manager, again, they would need to check off the boxes that they have saying, hey, this person has these skills, these projects seems impressive. That's where the projects are important. So once you have impressive projects on your resume, it's easy to talk to startups, founders. Anytime you go for a networking event, you can hand out the resume and they would be like, hey, look at this amazing project. And then they would take it to the manager and say, hey, look at this project. This seems impressive. Go ahead and give them an option to interview or something like that. It works differently everywhere, but that's kind of the process. To have an impressive resume. Once the resume is cleared, in order to get a job, you need to perform in the interview well. So those
And I
are
think
different steps.
that comes with like working on a lot of projects, right?
Right.
The more projects you work on, the better you get at it, and also preparing for that particular interview. Um, Talking about preparing for interviews, what are some of the like recommendations that you have if someone's like looking to prepare for interviews? So I think the basic ones are like Lead Code, HackerRank, and recently I came across this interview query, which is very good. They have like learning plans and things like that. But other than that, like how like what are some like tips that you could give for like someone who is trying to do their interview? Like I think one of them is mostly understanding like or explaining the interviewer your the way you approach problems. I think that's one of the tips, that most common tips. Like what are some of the tips that you felt like when you were interviewing candidates, that maybe this is the way I would answer or something like that? Like what are some of your tips?
Sure, yeah. So first, clearly understand the question. If you don't understand the question, please ask questions to the interviewer so you understand the question right. The interviewer assumes that you understood the question. I've seen a lot of times I ask a question and someone probably didn't understand it well, and they would start answering something totally different. And at that point, I would either think he doesn't understand, or he or she doesn't understand it, or they understood the question but they don't know the answer. They're trying to fool you by answering something else, right? So be very clear on the question. If you don't understand the question, please ask. uh, After that, be crisp and to point
Yeah,
when
I
when a
think
question is asked.
I think there are like some of them who like kind of beat around the bush, like try to kind of I mean, they're like trying to build a story around it, but you're like not getting to the point, right?
Right. So if you don't understand, I mean, if you don't know the answer, you can say that, hey, if you're looking for answer to this, I don't know. However, I can tell you things that are around it and when I would use it, or what as an alternative I can use. Like, for example, someone asked you classification algorithms, specific one, let's say random forest. You could go ahead and say, hey, I haven't used random forest, but I think this is how it works. But I've used, let's say, SVM, and this is one of the alternatives, and this is how it works. That probably is a acceptable solution. So instead of you just keep going around the bush, just answer to the point. If you can't, then explain that, and go ahead and tell that you're going to be telling about how you would use it, and don't keep talking. So I've seen candidates where you ask them one question and that's it. They're talking for the next 10 minutes. This doesn't let the interviewer ask the questions they have prepared to ask, or they want to check off so that they can compare the candidate with other candidates in a or I would say a fair way, rather than being biased. A lot of the interviewers have some kind of questions and different levels that they would have prepared, so the interview process is fair across all the candidates when they're considering. So let the interviewer ask you questions and just talk to the point.
Awesome. So I think there are a lot of folks joining in. So if you're joining in now, to put in your question. I think we will be ending this session in another 14 minutes. So we'll be done in another 14 minutes. We are wrapping this up. So if you have any question, put them in the comment section below, the chat section below. So talking about interviews, and I think we spoke about interviews, resumes, and the importance of industries, and and also like how to choose your data science path, right? So like I think this is like for someone who is just getting into data science. So do you have any like advice or like tips for someone who is trying to grow in their data science career?
Right. So once you've got a job as data scientist, it doesn't end there. It doesn't mean that you can relax. These are people who love to learn. Make sure
Yeah.
you're continuously learning because the world of data science and AI is growing rapidly. A couple of months ago, I read an article where they said there are about 40,000 papers published in AI machine learning data science field every year, and we can't catch up with everything. But there are these key milestones or key papers or key inventions that happen every year, and it's only accelerating now. So there's a lot to catch up. So don't relax. Continue to learn advanced things. Continue to keep up with the industry. Subscribe to news articles.
Yeah, I think
Subscribe.
the 2-minute papers on
Oh yeah.
YouTube is really good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think as you like kind of grow in the career, right? It wouldn't be more of that technical skills. It's more of like I mean, it depends on what route they're going, right? Like,
Right.
so if someone's going in more of a technical, like a research kind of route, they would be more focused on the technical and the research aspects of it, right?
Right. The other aspect is the leadership side.
Leadership side, yeah.
When it comes to leadership, make sure you take a big picture view, start becoming more like a team leader and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about that, like what is how do you identify if a problem, like a business problem, is a data science problem? Because I feel not all companies, like, everyone are like just hopping on that trend where like, oh, let's implement data science, let's implement data science, but not all problems require a data science solution.
Absolutely.
So in your experience, how how have you identified what is a good data science problem?
Right. So this is where the horizontal depth and the width or the breadth of knowledge is important, right? So if you're at least aware of different techniques that are there in AI machine learning, and in general, programming and other stuff, you would be better at taking a decision if this is a good solution for AI machine learning, or uh, could there be a simpler solution outside of this field. So that's where the breadth comes into picture. So if you understand different things, you know the pros and cons, or how at least they kind of work, you can choose a solution or algorithm in a quick way, easy way to solve that problem, versus trying to solve all the problems with the same tool. Like say you learn deep learning, you can pretty much solve a lot of machine learning problems
Yeah.
with it, but that shouldn't be your first solution because there's
Yeah.
no explainability. It's very hard to explain what deep learning models do. So this is inside machine learning or data science. You got to be careful on choosing models that would solve the problem. Don't take a, like I always give this example. There are two ways to cut a paper, or multiple ways. One, you can use your hands to cut the paper. You can use scissors. That's another tool that's going to make it easier for you to cut the paper. Or you can bring a chainsaw and cut the paper with a chainsaw. That's like applying deep learning for a very simple problem. All you want is paper to be cut. You can take and tear it. So use a simpler solution. It doesn't have to be machine learning. Keep your knowledge and ego out and find the best solution or the simplest solution
Yeah.
that works with the problem.
Yeah, and I think most like some teams where they're like, just because you've identified that it's a data science problem, and then later on someone comes and says that, hey, this small thing can be even done in like Excel, but this team still goes and does the data science solution, and then you're like you're like 6 months into that, you're trying to figure out solutions. And I think with that, I think there's a lot of like good product management with the data science experience would be a good fit. So if someone here watching, like you're already in the product management, maybe having this data skills would be another plus. You will be able to identify projects that are much better. Do you think that that would be the case, or do you think like so I'm just thinking like, how do you identify a good project for data science in that case, with maybe someone with a good product management experience having the knowledge of data science, or how, like I'm just trying to understand.
Right. I mean, it's all in the narrative of the project that you can say, hey, when I picked this project, or when we were solving this project, these are the different approaches we could have taken, and we picked this instead of these things because of X, Y, and Z reasons. It could be a question from the interviewer, or you could tell them upfront saying, hey, at this point, this is what the common approach is, but because of this knowledge that I have, I'm able to pick this, and we were able to solve this problem better, or something like that. So that's a good way to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, we have three questions, so we have 7 minutes. So yeah, I think Pikachu is asking, where can a astrophysics get work? So are you an astrophysicist? I'm not sure I understand your question. So is that Shaktiman logo behind you? Yes. If you want to take it as a Shaktiman logo, you can.
Right. So astrophysicist, I think machine learning, data science, data analytics is used everywhere. So, including astrophysics. So yeah, but there are a lot of research organizations. Wherever you are, look for astrophysics companies, and I'm pretty sure they would be encouraging to use deep learning or machine learning for various activities there.
Yeah. So I think we have another question by Garima. She's asking, based on projects, is it easy to land an entry-level job as a data analyst?
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah.
With projects, all you're saying is, hey, look, if you hire me, I could deliver a project like this, and I have the skill set to do that. So project speaks, and if you actually did the project and understood it well, you shouldn't have any problem cracking the interviews.
So yeah, Akash, it goes to, the same question pretty much. We are talking about projects right now. So I think we did cover this previously too. Projects are really important for your resume to get picked. And also like you were saying, it's about having those good projects, most recent projects. Like if you worked on a project probably last week, it's a very good thing to add that onto your resume rather than something that you did like a couple of months ago. Right,
and also something that's relevant to the company. If all the projects are, let's say, computer vision, and you're applying for a job where it's all natural language processing, even though you might have an impressive resume, you'll not get a call or get shortlisted because you don't have any experience in NLP. So depending on which company you're applying to, you can change your resume. You can have specific projects for different companies. Because your resume needs to be short, make sure you only showcase the important projects that are relevant to the company.
Yeah, I think we covered pretty much almost all the topics that we had for this session. And for those of you who are joining in now, thanks for joining in. I will post this video on YouTube, so you can take a look at it if you missed it. Pretty much we covered most of the topics, like the different how do you get into data science, and the resume part, I think the projects part. We pretty much covered literally everything
Right.
in this session. Also, yeah, do like write to us and let us know if you like this session. And yeah, so I think we have 3 more minutes. So we have one more question from Red Mash. Being in data analytics or data science role, is it stressful? Or I think this is a new question. We didn't answer this question. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Do you want to take us? Or do
I
you,
don't
I
know if
can
we
tell.
have like time to get into.
We can't get
that
into
depth,
depth, but yeah.
We have another video that's posted on YouTube, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Which talks about who are you a good match for data scientists, or are you, someone who can be a data scientist. So again, if the role what data scientists do is something that you enjoy, it's not going to be stressful. Any job can be stressful or chill depending on how much you like
Yeah.
and how well you're suited for being a data scientist or data analyst. It's not for
I
everyone.
think it's not like specific to the job role. Like if you are someone who likes to be like passionate about what you're doing, and you like what you're doing right now, even like when you're actually studying data science or data analytics, even if you're studying for data analytics right now, are you enjoying it? Yeah, are you like frustrated? Are you look at SQL and you're like, I'm not going to do this every day. So if you are like that right now itself, probably you might not enjoy it. It will be stressful for you always. So I think that would be my answer if you want to get into data analytics or data science. I think it's pretty much common for any kind of role, right?
Right, and apart from that, there are things like you shouldn't be scared of numbers, you shouldn't be scared of
Yeah.
programming, you shouldn't be scared of experimentation,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be scared of learning. If you say, hey, after this course, I'm never going to touch or learn anything,
Yeah.
then data science role is not for you. Data analytics, probably, yes, there's a limited number of tools and algorithms you need to learn or statistics
Yeah.
you need to learn, but data science, you need to be a daily lifelong learner.
Right.
If that's you, then yeah, data science is a good fit for you. Otherwise, if you're scared of data or spreadsheets, then none of the careers in data would be for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pick wisely
Yeah.
based on who you are, understand yourself, and then see what is a good match.
Yeah, I think you can start gauging that once you start learning it. So if it's really something that, again, like Raj was saying, that if it's like, if you don't like spreadsheets, if you don't like numbers, then I guess it's the world of data is only not for you, because it's a lot of spreadsheets, looking at spreadsheets and doing analysis. So yeah, so let's wrap it up. Thank you all for joining in. We had a great time answering all your questions, and do message us on Instagram. We can answer your questions, or maybe we can have another mentorship session. Yeah, so thanks all for joining.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining and amazing questions. Wish you good luck, and we'll stay in touch with us on LinkedIn
On
and
Instagram.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah.